Namaskar. Someone has rightly said that the constitution of any country should be like running water. Otherwise, what happens to the water of a pond? After a certain interval, the germs start taking birth into it and the whole water gets spoiled up. Running water, it means that time to time the changes are required. We are living in a democratic country called India, which also requires changes depending upon the situation. So basically today I will be talking what are the tools through which we can amend the constitution. And we all know that there are only three methods through which we can amend the constitution of India. Only three mediums or only three ways. The one is known as the simple majority. Through the process of simple majority, we can amend the constitution of our country. And amending the constitution of our country, what does it mean? If someone's body is facing some sort of pain, and when he goes to the doctor, I think he specifies where actually he is facing the pain. Is he facing the pain into his eyes, or is he facing the pain into his brain, or anywhere else? But he has to be very specific. So what happens? India is a very big country and there are so many things. So what happens that we require some changes, but exactly where do we require the change? So depending upon the subject matter, the way in human body, depending upon the degree of the disease, we require different doctors. In the same manner, the Constitution of India, as there are so many subjects, so they also require the different doctors, and the one doctor is simple majority. It is equivalent to the cold in case of human body. And you go to a simple doctor, you don't go to a neurologist. So I am giving some examples so that you could understand how we can amend the constitution through the simple majority. So you all know there was a time when the salary of the president used to be around 1 lakh rupees, but now it is, I think, 4 or 5 lakh rupees. How it changed? There was a time when the Chennai used to be known as Madras, and Uttarakhand used to be the part of Uttar Pradesh. So I am saying that these kinds of changes, by the way, the list is endless, but I am just giving a brief idea that if we require the change, any change like this, then we have to amend the Constitution of India, because the country runs through the Constitution. But if the change is related to these kinds of matters, increasing the salary, changing the name of any state or any particular place, or creating a different state, these kinds of changes can be done through the simple majority. We require the simple majority and we can change the constitution. We can bring amendment in the constitution. But cold is not the only problem which human being faces. What about if he experiencing or getting affected with cancer? Then I think then we require an oncologist. Or what about if someone is facing the pain into his brain? Then a neurologist. So in the same manner, what happens, within our country there are some subject matters, those are comparatively more serious, at least more serious than changing the name of a particular place or increasing the salary. For instance, let's assume we want to bring change in the election process of the President of India, or we want to bring change in the powers of the Supreme Court of India, or we want to bring change in the power of the government of India, the executory powers, if we want to increase its area, then how can be it possible? My friends, it also requires the change in the constitution, but this time the change in the constitution does not require the simple majority but a special majority, because these matters are comparatively more serious one. Hence, instead of having simple majority, we need to have the special majority. Only then we can change the constitution, and after changing the constitution, these subjects will be changed. Now the third amendment in the constitution, which requires, I would say that it is the most serious one. You know, the most serious one means you can relate it with the human disease by taking the example of coma. If someone has the problem in his brain, then you know neurologist is there, but if he reaches into coma, then I think within the neurologist what we require the senior most neurologist, because science says that less than 1% people they come out of the coma. So with respect to the Constitution of India, what happens that there are some subject matters, those are the most serious one. The most serious one means they changes the federal structure of the country. You can take the example of 101 constitutional amendment that is related to the GST. What was before the GST? States, every state has its VAT, value added tax. But what happened when the GST was brought? This GST subsumed all the 16 taxes into one bottle. You need to concentrate here that these states, they lost the opportunity to levy the taxes, and you know how significant the money is, the finance is to run the state peacefully or the smoothly. But these states, they lost their power, they lose their power to levy the taxes. Since it's a pretty serious matter, that's why what happened, we had to brought a change into the Constitution of India, and this change, this constitutional amendment, it was done not by simple majority or not by a special majority only, but we required the special majority plus the consent of half of the states which have the legislative assembly in our country. So just think that in the first one we only required the simple majority where we changed the name and all these things, the salary. In the second one we required the special majority where we changed the power of the Supreme Court of India, the election process of President, and the power of the central government. But in the third one, in case of this GST, where the states, they lost their power of levying taxes, being the most serious matter, it was only possible through the constitutional amendment which required the special majority plus the consent of half of the states. And you know it happened with GST. That's why this GST took a lot of time to get passed from the parliament, and finally it was signed by the President of India and became the act. So I would say that you have to keep in mind that the Constitution of India can be changed through three ways. The one is simple majority, the second requires the special majority, and the third one is special majority plus the consent of half of the states which have the legislative assembly. So in this way you can say we can bring the changes in the constitution which helps in running the country and makes the country alive, because change is the only constant in this universe which keeps on happening. Thank you.